couple of weeks.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a while there. This is episode 47, I think, right? Yeah, episode 47. It's good to be back. This almost feels a little strange.
Yep.
Being back here.
You look much more cultured now.
Do I? Do I look traveled?
Yeah, traveled.
And worldly? Yes, I think most everybody knows, but we missed the last two episodes because I've been across the pond. I was over in Italy having a holiday, as they call it.
Yeah, on holiday.
Yeah, because, they just have to be so fucking different.
Yeah. Bunch of pretentious fucks.
So I do have some stories and things that I want to share about the podcast, but or about Italy on the podcast. But I don't want this to be the vacation recap episode. Right. So,
So tell me, when you were there, did you feel like you were family?
That's pretty good. Were you sitting on that for a while? I tell you what, when I was there, I felt like my life was in danger anytime I tried to cross the street.
Oh, really?
Because the immediate thing, the first thing I noticed being over there in Italy was that everybody who is behind the wheel of a vehicle thinks that they're Enzo Ferrari.
Oh, really?
And they might as well be. Because we, so a couple of weeks before we flew out, we set up a transfer service for somebody to pick us up from the airport and take us to the hotel, which was, in my opinion, was totally worth it, to have to, heft our luggage around on trains, buses, and all that shit. So we had somebody pick us up and take us to the hotel. And the guy that was driving, as soon as we hit the highway, he, punched it. And, we started going, 90 miles an hour. Yeah. It's a kilometers an hour, whatever that happens to be. But me and Mary were kind of looked at each other like, this dude is fucking flying. Yeah. And I was like, why is he driving like this? And he would get, 3-4 inches away from somebody's bumper, and they would get over it, and he'd fly past them. And I was like, this dude's insane. But then we got into town where everybody else was driving. Right. And I was like, oh, he drives like that out of necessity. Right.
Everybody does.
Everybody drives like that. It's just chaos. It's not even organized chaos. People are just driving. Just out on the roads.
I wonder what their driving tests are like.
I have no idea because you can't prepare for what that is. You just have to get out in it.
Did you see any Vespas while you were there?
A couple. What was very popular, at least in the area we were, was those little electric scooters. Oh yeah, the little birds. They were everywhere. Yeah, but the people driving in Italy are doing one of two things. They're either accelerating or braking really hard. And so, and it's a stark contrast between the way that they drive and the way that they walk. Right. Because when they're walking, they're not in a hurry to get fucking sauntering anywhere. Yeah. And Mary and I both have a pretty quick pace when we walk. Yeah. It's just, that's just how that's our normal pace is a bit faster than most people. And we both get irritated being stuck behind somebody walking slowly. Right. And that happened every time we tried to walk somewhere. Right. There was some fucking Italian just meandering around. And he'd take some 15 minutes to walk a half a mile, and then he gets in a car and he's just fucking veer. We had done a couple of day trips and things like that. And one of the things that we did scheduled or whatever was a Roman a day walking tour. And when they say Roman a day, they mean you would do everything that one day. I think it was we left our hotel that morning at probably 8:30. Yeah. And probably got back to the hotel around 6 or 7 that night.
Oh boy. That's a lot of walking.
It was a lot of walking. And that day wasn't even the most that we walked. There was one day we walked 10.5 miles. Whoa. We were just kind of out. We were just out exploring. Right. Because the whole city is kind of you just pick a direction and you go.
Start walking.
And there's just, if it's your first time there, of course, everything you see is going to be wow, look at that thing. No. But, so the Roman the Day tour, we hit, the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. We went by Trevi Fountain, Pantheon, and went over to Vatican City, and we got to go inside the Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's Basilica and all
Did you
that
throw
stuff.
soup on anything?
Do what?
Did you throw soup on
I
anything?
considered it, and gluing my hand to the wall. Yeah. But yeah, we were just on our feet all day long that day, and we weren't. You know, there was nothing that explicitly stated in like what was offered in that tour about getting you back to where you started.
Right.
They just kind of like, okay, hope you enjoyed. Bye.
Yeah.
We're like, everybody's like several miles away from where we started. So what we ended up doing, we just ended up calling an Uber.
Did they have like Uber over there?
Yeah, Uber's over there. It was quite expensive though.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it was entirely worth it. Matter of fact, so we called the Uber, and after I called the Uber, I noticed that we were standing out front of a Jollibee.
Yeah. And
I've always wanted to try Jollibee. I never got the chance to try it. Have you ever had it before?
I've seen it before, but I've never had it before.
I've always heard it's really good. I heard it's like it's like the foreign interpretation of what American food is.
Yeah.
They have like fried chicken and hamburgers and hot dogs and things. But I've always heard it's really good. But anyway, the Uber driver, he drives like every other Italian, and so there's so many like side streets and alleyways that they drive down that you like. It doesn't look like a car's supposed to be on this, and it is, and there a lot of them are. And I was just thinking to myself, like, he's driving past like all these like tables and chairs and shit that are outside like, where people sit, and I'm thinking like, how do people not get their shit ran over all the time?
Right.
And it's about this moment that thought entered my head. He ran over one of those bird scooters, like ran it over.
He ran over a child.
he just ran it over and just kept going. I was like, this place is lawless. Yeah, but we had a really good time, and you know, I feel that we made good use of the time that we had there. We saw a lot of stuff. We walked all over that city. And Mary totaled it up, and we had walked 56 miles.
Whoa!
By the time it was all said and done, but you don't really realize that you're covering that much ground just because you're seeing so much stuff. You don't really notice it until you get back to the hotel and you lay down on the bed and you're like, what the fuck did we do?
Yeah. So I have to ask, how was the food? Did you have some like real Italian cuisine?
So the interesting
like Mama Zito's? Like...
There was one place that we went to twice.
Yeah.
Because it was that good. It was you know, of course it was just a little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Type of restaurant. It was a Sicilian restaurant. So here's the thing about Italian food is there's not really such a thing as Italian food.
Right.
So, and the Italian people don't even really consider themselves to be Italians.
Right.
They you know, their nationality or whatever you want to call it is more like the regions of Italy.
Right.
So, you know, like, oh, I'm Sicilian or I'm from Tuscany or
I'm Roman. I'm from Rome.
something like that.
You're like, nah, you're Italian.
Yeah, pretty much. You're just Italian to me.
It's like when Columbus came in, like, nah, you're Indians.
You all fucking drive the same, let me tell you that. So you have like Sicilian food is like, so like lasagna is like a Sicilian thing.
Yeah.
But people in Rome don't eat lasagna.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, all the tourists are coming to Rome and they're thinking, oh, like this place is going to be like Olive Garden. You know, I can just go and get whatever I want. And they would go into places like, do you have lasagna? And they'd be like, no. And then they'd leave. Yeah. So those places were like, well, fuck, I guess we got to start serving lasagna to these people. But yeah, so we went to this Sicilian restaurant. It was called Milo. And it was owned and operated by an old man and his wife and their son. No. And that's all it was. That was the only,
I bet it was
that
good.
Was the only staff.
I bet it was good.
And it was great. It was so good. I had chicken parmesan, which of course is different over there than it is over here. Mary had lasagna. The second night the second time that we went there, it was our last night, and Mary got some kind of like seafood pasta. Yeah. And it was like it had like mussels and clams in it with like a garlic sauce, whatever.
It sounds very Mediterranean.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Really?
It was so good. Yeah. So we ate a lot of good food over there. I ate a fuckload of pizza. Ate so much pizza.
Really?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
pizza's a big thing over there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huge. And when we got home, I think Saturday night we ordered a pizza.
Yeah.
Over here, like, it fucked me up.
Really?
Yeah. So like the food over there is different. The ingredients are different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can necessarily say that they're fresh, but they use different stuff than we do.
Right.
It's all the same. It's different means to the same end, right?
Chances are that sauce is probably made from real tomatoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you can
and
tell
like real salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Whereas like what you got from wherever you got it from,
yeah,
probably came out of like a can.
Yeah, like your jar of ragu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely taste the difference there. But yeah, not every place that we ate at was a winner though.
Right.
Right. The first place we had dinner was it was a kind of a cool atmosphere. It was out in like a garden. Like all the tables were out in like this garden, and we like ate under an olive tree, and it was like this very Italian thing happening. But the food, I didn't know we were in a fancy restaurant until the portions got to the table. And it was just like this little like diarrhea squirt amount of food. And we both got a sea bass entree, which we didn't know that sea bass was really fishy.
Oh yeah, it's super fishy.
Extremely fishy. And so we weren't super pleased with like our first dinner. We're like, are we not gonna like anything here? But yeah, we ate a bunch of good food. On one of our day trips, we went to Positano, which is a coastal city near Amalfi. And like you probably saw the pictures we posted, like of all the buildings like built up into the side of that cliff. Yeah. So it's another city just like that. But that was the best pizza that I had. I had a pepperoni pizza. Over there they call it Diavola, or they call it spicy salami, whatever. Yeah. It was really, really good. Mary had a big calzone over there and Mary doesn't eat tomatoes.
Right.
And she ate every bit of that.
Yeah.
But there was one place that we went to. And Mary likes to point out the fact that I picked both the sucky restaurants, and I did, so I accept that. I was trying to decide on what pizza I wanted, and they just had one that was called Wurstel, or sausage pizza. And so I was like, I like sausage on pizza, And I'm thinking like Italian sausage, whatever. And it comes out, and it's fucking hot dogs. Like Kroger brand hot dog slices on this pizza.
Some ballpark Franks.
Yeah. The fucked up thing is that it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible, but it was kind of the principle of the matter.
Yeah.
Don't serve me hot dog pizza.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's probably just some shit that they serve Americans. Yeah. But
get a load of this guy.
Hey, get a load of this guy over here. But I kind of looked into it a little bit, and so hot dog pizza is very popular with children over there. So little kids over there really like hot dogs. It's their
like,
version of like
look at this fucking baby.
It's like their version of like a chicken finger basket. That's what I ordered.
Look at this fucking child.
You want a glass of milk, little baby? Another thing that was kind of, I guess you call it a culture shock, is so when you go to a restaurant and you order water, they don't bring you like a glass of water. Mm-hmm. You get like a bottle of either still or sparkling water. It's kind of pricey. It's like $3-4.
Yeah.
But all over the city, like literally everywhere, are fountains that are constantly pouring water that you can drink. Like they're everywhere. And we had a water bottle with us with like a carbon filter in it because we weren't gonna just go to a new place and drink the water over there. But when we were walking around the town and everything, we always were able to keep our bottle topped off because there's water everywhere.
Right.
So I just thought it was interesting that water is like freely available all over the town, but then you go into a restaurant, they're like, no, it's gonna be $4.
Yeah, and the fuck it will. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when we went to Marseille, France, and Toulon. They were both the same way, where both of those were coastal cities down near like the south of France.
Yeah.
And I remember going in to get something to eat at like one of the little restaurants down there that was out near the water. I specifically remember them. I think I had like a pizza or whatever that they brought out, and I remember they like brought me water, and they brought a glass, and then they brought like a bottle of like I guess whatever water they had, like Fiji or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, here you go. And it's like handed it to me. I was like, they don't do ice. Like ice is not. Yeah. I don't know how it is in Italy.
I never had a drink with ice in it.
Yeah.
While we were there, we would get like cold water, but no drinks. They didn't have ice in it.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things like that. They're, you just kind of notice like, oh, that's different.
No. Did you get it like a Coke over there at all? Because I know in France, like the thing was they'd give you a lime with your Coke.
Really?
And people would squeeze the lime into the Coke to drink it.
I never ordered one in a restaurant, but there was a couple times that we were like walking, down the road or whatever, and we'd like hop in a store and grab a Sprite.
Right.
But yeah, I never ordered a Coke. I saw a lot of people drinking Coke though. Like,
yeah, it's a big, I remember it was big in France.
I noticed that while we were there, like people were drinking either one or two things at a restaurant. They're either drinking wine or drinking Coke.
Right.
And I was like, we were kind of the odd ones out drinking water. But they probably thought we were fucking stupid. They're like, there's water everywhere outside. Like, why are you buying it in a restaurant?
You big dummy.
You big dumbass. But yeah, it was really cool. We saw a lot of cool stuff. The coastal towns that we went to were really neat.
So did you see any of the stuff that we think Italians do? Like, was there anybody like yelling?
Oh yeah,
yelling and like the pointing
with the hands.
Yeah, with the hands.
Yeah, I saw that a lot, a lot. It's called gesticulating. There's a word for it, and they did that a lot. I saw a lot of this. Like whenever they were like arguing or somebody was trying to make a point, when the hands came out, that's when you knew it was serious.
Yeah. You're like, oh shit, it's getting serious over there.
Yeah, Aaron. Before I left, Aaron was like, you need to try and like. Take a mental note of how many times you hear that when the moon hits your eye, like that.
Yeah.
He's like, see how many times you hear that. And I did. I heard that once.
You did?
Yeah, while we were walking past a pizza shop. Oh. I wish I would have recorded it and sent it to him. But yeah, when we went down to do the the coastal tour thing, we had to take a speed train down to Siena, I think it is, and then hop on a boat and all that. But while we were on the train, our tour guide was like, if you look out the left side of the train here in a little bit, you'll be able to see Mount Vesuvius. And I was like, great. So I was just like, I really was kind of trying not to think about that.
Yeah.
And so, as after a while, we were like, oh, fuck, there it is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah.
Get him. And I'm just like, I was telling Mary, I was like, we watched a bunch of stuff about Pompeii after that night because I was trying to explain to her why it freaks me out so much. Look what happened to these fucking people.
Yeah. Nothing good can happen here.
Yeah. And, there are people that live there now. Like not in the actual ancient city of Pompeii is an archaeological dig site, so people aren't living there. But around that area,
right.
Close
enough.
Near the fucking volcano, people are living there. And I'm like, I would want to live fucking anywhere else. Like, don't you know what happened? And it's not done.
Right.
There's another one gonna happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't too stoked about being near the volcano.
No.
One of the coolest things we saw though had to have been Tuscany, because the countryside up there is a lot different than like what you'd see over here. Mm-hmm. Just with the way the mountains are, they're very like rounded and like rolling hills, whatever you want to call it, and like just the different vegetation that grows there, the way that they they'll mark off their plots of land with those cypress trees, whatever it is, cedar trees, whatever it is. That was really cool. There was when we visited two different towns in Tuscany. They were medieval towns, so very old stuff. That was another thing. It was really cool being, around all that stuff that was so old.
Right.
Because there's nothing old over here.
Right.
America's just a little over 200 years old. Right. We don't have anything like that. So we were like in these like buildings that were like around before Jesus,
right? Like
by 800 years, and we're standing there walking around. That was really neat. But the two towns we went to were medieval towns or whatever. Our tour guide was like, when we get here, she was like, we're kind of on a schedule, so make sure if you're walking by a store and you see something, just run there and grab it and get out. Like try and keep the group together. Right. And she had a lot of people she had to keep a hold of. It was like 30 different individuals. Well, two people, I guess, got a little carried away with their shopping and got separated from the group, and we left them.
Ooh. She's like, I told you.
Yeah. So the way that particular like day trip went was like we hit this one town called Montepulciano first. Then we went to a restaurant or where we did like a wine tasting or whatever. And then after that we went to Pienza. And we had gotten to the restaurant. Like, she had done, like, a roll call a few times. Yeah. And finally, she was like, fuck it, I guess they're lost. And then we got on the bus and we left. We went to the wine tasting place. And we were about, like, 25 minutes into this thing, and then those two ladies walked in.
Yeah.
So I guess the tour company had to, like, get a hold of them. It was like, we're kind of responsible for these people.
Right.
We can't just leave them out here. It was these two women from Spain. So they didn't speak English or Italian.
Right. Man, at least they're on the same continent.
Yeah. So after that, they stayed with the group.
No. She's like, fuck around, find out, huh?
Yeah, they found out. But yeah, we had a really good time. The flight there, we flew out pretty late when we were on our way to Rome, and it was a direct flight, thankfully. But it was 9 hours, and we basically slept the entire thing. Yeah. So it was perfect. We just went to sleep and woke up, and we were pretty much there.
Right.
The flight back, that was a whole day of traveling, and it sucked.
Yeah, I bet.
So we had to get up at 3:30 in the morning. Ugh. And the hotel hooked us up with another transfer service to the airport. That was awesome. The thing that sucked about that, though, is that we didn't know that guy didn't take card. The first guy did that brought us to the hotel. Yeah. The second guy was like, he didn't. Oh. So when we got there, I pulled my card out to pay him. He's like, I only take cash. And I was like, fuck, I had like any euros left.
You're like, too bad.
So I had to run inside the airport and use an ATM to get euro out. Yeah. And so that taxi ride cost me $120.
Woo.
Because I could only pull out $100.
Right.
Plus the exchange fee, plus the ATM fee. So all in all, that's what that ended up costing me. So we had a 2.5-hour flight to Amsterdam, and then like a 3-hour layover over there, and then a 10 hour and something minute flight to Atlanta. Yeah. And that flight felt like it was 48 fucking hours long.
Yeah, I bet it did.
I thought I like lived my whole life on that plane. And it was rough.
Really?
Lots of turbulence.
Coming back across the Atlantic.
Yeah. When we were descending into Atlanta, the plane fell several times.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. And it reminded me of your story when y'all were flying up to Michigan, was it?
No, we were flying over the Rockies somewhere.
Yeah. You had talked about it on the podcast once, but y'all fell for a good while.
Yeah, about 1,000 feet.
God almighty.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm such a bad flyer. Like I couldn't fucking deal with that, man. Like when our plane fell, it was like that. Yeah. Just like a little like, you know.
No.
Because Mom was with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she talked to we went and had dinner with them last night, and she kind of talked about it, and she said it was like 5 seconds of like free fall.
Yes, free fall. I didn't have a seatbelt on.
Fuck that.
I came up out of my seat and I saw everybody's like brick Nokia phones up in the air, eye level with me, and then they went wham like that and hit, and I buckled my seatbelt. And I remember the craziest part about that was that once we landed, we hit so hard when we fell for such a long time.
Like when you caught wind again.
Yeah, there was no warning or anything. Like we just hit like an air pocket and just dropped. And I remember the stewardess that was in the back, it threw her into the back of the plane. She had a concussion.
Damn.
And like knocked her the fuck out.
Wow.
So like when we landed, I think we flew into like Salt Lake or something.
Yeah.
And I remember when we landed, like the ambulance, they got her off and put her in an ambulance and took her away.
Wow. I couldn't fucking deal with that. I'd be a different person after that. I told Mary, I was like, look, I'm one bad airplane ride away from swearing those motherfuckers off forever. I was like, I hate flying. It freaks me out so much. So I'm glad that I was able to get there and back. But God almighty, I don't want to get on another plane. And I have to get on another one within a month or so. Yeah, I got to go up to Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because Mary graduated with her master's degree. So a quick round of applause for Mary. Congratulations. Graduated with a 4.0.
Very nice.
Yeah. She's much more scholarly than I. But yeah, so I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I want to talk about on the podcast about the trip. Nothing's coming to mind there. But yeah, we had a really good time. It was fun. Oh, there is one more thing. We were walking around. I want to say it was probably like our second to last day or something. They were walking around town, or no, it was our last day, and we heard like this fucking loud noise.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a lot of people out and about, it's crowds, and it's, kind of noisy anyway.
No.
We heard like this, like, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Because in the back of my mind the whole time we're over there, I'm like, World War III is like right over there.
Ukraine's right there.
It's like, you ever seen that GIF? I think it was like P. Diddy or whatever, where he's kind of like standing there and he's kind of like vibing and everything. He kind of like looks up worriedly. That was kind of me the whole time we were in Italy. I was like, what the fuck was that? And I heard it several more times. And finally, I just happened to be looking up, and I saw it was two jet fighters flying over the city. And kind of low. Like, enough that I could make out details on the plane.
Right.
And, all the Italians were just kind of like, they didn't pay any mind.
No.
So when we got back to the hotel, I asked our what do you call that?
Like the concierge.
Concierge. I asked him, I was like, is there like a military base or something nearby here? And they were like, probably. It was like military base locations are like top secret in Italy. He was like, as a matter of fact, he's like, if you're like looking over Italy on Google Maps, he's like, and you see like a really pixelated area, he's like, that's probably a good indicator that somewhere in there is a military base. But then he was like, but because Italians suck at consistency, some of them are just freely available. You can just find them. But yeah, it was a good time. I'm definitely glad to be back, though.
I bet.
Yeah, we I don't know if you can hear it in my voice a little bit. I have a little bit of congestion left over. We were actually supposed to record yesterday at our normal time, but I ended up pushing it up because I was trying to kick a cold. So I brought a cold back from Italy. And poor Mary, she got a double ear infection on the plane.
Really?
Yeah. So when we were,
I bet with all the pressure and everything in the cabin.
When we were descending into Atlanta, it was really bothering her. She was crying. I felt so bad for her. But yeah, we brought back that little souvenir for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yay. But at least we didn't get COVID.
Yeah, traveling like that is most of the time you always fucking catch something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to, just because you're like around all those people and you're in a cabin with recycled air and I
remember like my immune system got so fucking hardy
from
the last job that I had because I was flying everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
So I was constantly in and out of like Hartsfield Jackson.
You like eat pizza off a porta potty seat.
Yeah, might as well
totally fine. I wanted to ask you if excuse me, did you see what happened in South Korea a couple weeks back? So I guess it was Halloween weekend. I don't know a ton of details about what goes on over there, but there's a thing that the youth population does. Excuse me. In South Korea, they go out to some district of the city, and they all kind of hang out there, and it's a huge crowd, like hundreds of thousands of people. And so a couple of weeks ago, that was going on, and something happened, and a stampede happened.
Oh, shit.
And 150 people died.
I bet.
That's a big number. When you're talking about, like, I mean, of course, like, things like 9/11, like, 3,000 people died, but, like, you're talking about just, like, a group of people getting together.
Right.
Who would have expected 150 fucking people to die in something like that?
Well, it also makes me wonder how many people, like, were hospitalized or had injuries because of this.
Yeah. I only saw the death toll. But, because people on Twitter are soulless, a lot of people were sharing videos of, like, the corpses.
Right.
And I saw this one video that was just so wild to me because it was... I guess it was at the end of whatever, like what they call it, a surge or whatever, where all the crowd, everybody's kind of pushing against each other.
Right.
And it was this pile of bodies, like, that spilled out into an alleyway. Like, It was one of the craziest things. It was and some people were stuck in it, and they were still alive, and they were
Right.
like, trying to pull them out of it. And like, there's all these faces of people who just asphyxiated in this crowd.
Huh.
And it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that.
Yeah.
Because, especially like if you're out in the street, right?
Right.
It seems like, in my head, it kind of seems like if you needed to get out of that situation, you could.
Right.
Some way, somehow. But obviously I'm fucking wrong about that because 150 people died.
Well, I mean,
during
if you're talking about, and I don't know anything about this, but I'm assuming that these 100,000 people were probably packed in like fucking sardines.
Yeah.
Like
Assholes to elbows.
right.
Yeah.
It's like look at the documentary that we watched about
Woodstock.
Woodstock
Yeah.
99. Like, look how close all those people. Like,
Yeah.
if something was to happen,
You couldn't get out quick.
you couldn't get out quick enough.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just like some, ignorance in my head. I feel like if I was in that situation, I would be able to get out of it. Like kind of weasel my way off to the fringes.
Right.
But I guess if there's 1,000 other people around me thinking the same thing,
Right.
then I could kind of see that how that would happen. But like, I don't know. That's just such a tragedy. 150 people. That number just keeps coming into my head. How wild that is.
I wonder what happened. I wonder what caused
Like what caused it.
what
yeah.
caused it to happen.
Well, if you consider it's like a chain reaction type of thing,
Right.
it's likely that what caused it was really nothing big.
Yeah.
Nothing really substantial.
Probably insignificant in the grand scheme of what probably happened.
Yeah. So when you hear about something like that, it kind of starts to make sense why places have like maximum occupancies and limitations on how many people they'll let come into an area,
Right.
because you can't have like the Metallica in Moscow
Like over
crowd,
1 million people.
over 1 million people in one place.
Right. Like you look over the horizon, there's still people.
Yeah, it's like you remember that scene in Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards, where they were stampeding over one another trying to retreat, and Jon Snow was like trying to claw his way up out of a group of
He's
people.
like on the top of it.
That was some poor South Korean's reality here recently. Yeah, that's just so wild. I mean, we went to Rockville. I mean, that's that crowd that we were in is obviously not comparable to like
Right.
It
was a large crowd.
It was a large crowd, yeah, but it's not a Woodstock 99 type crowd or the Metallica's Moscow concert crowd, but it was a big crowd. And even in like standing in the middle of that, there's you're getting kind of jostled around and kind of shoved around and stuff. So if you figure like the weight of the 500 people behind you, crashing down on you,
Yeah.
and the average person weighs anywhere between like 150 to 210 pounds.
Right.
That's a lot of weight.
Well, I specifically remember, like, being at Welcome to Rockville, and I think it was during, like, the Bring Me the Horizon set, like, I got into, like, they did the Wall of Death.
You got swallowed up by the crowd. You were standing right next to me, and I lost you for an hour.
And, like, I won't ever forget. Because there was like a dude standing next to me, and he's like screaming, and then he like looks at me, he's like, "Let's fucking go!" And then like they go, and then he just like falls down and gets trampled. And I remember like I lost my footing. And the like two people behind me like yanked me up.
Yeah.
So like at least like during like in the mosh pit, like people were actively like
trying not to kill one another,
trying to get people up off the ground.
Yeah, because being flat on your face and a bunch
bad
of
things can happen.
A bunch of stamping legs all around is a bad situation to be in. It's like being caught up in like some kind of heavy machinery. Just doesn't even know that you're there. That's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen.
One of the worst ones I've ever seen is when like somebody gets run over by like a fucking forklift.
Oh, just unyielding.
Yeah.
I saw one time where these guys over in China were trying to bring something into a warehouse on a forklift, and there was the dude driving it, and then there was a dude on the back of the forklift. He was like crouched down on the back of it. I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
What are you doing?
But at one point, the forklift started to tip.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been around a forklift, but the whole back half of that forklift is counterweight.
Yeah, it's just concrete.
It's concrete and steel.
Yeah.
It's extremely fucking heavy because you consider, the forklift is grabbing a pallet and it's got to be able to lift it way up high without tipping over. So whatever they were carrying was obviously pretty fucking heavy, and it caused the forklift to tip over. Well, this woman runs up from off screen and she jumps up and grabs the back of the forklift as if she was going to be able to pull it down. And she loses her grip and falls down underneath the forklift, and then the forklift comes back down on her. And then that's just fucking game over. Because you can't quickly get that up off the ground.
She's got squished.
She just got squished.
Imagine somebody be like...
Just seeing it coming. Just...
Imagine being the fucking EMT, like, okay.
Oh yeah, got to answer that call. Whoa.
You're like, I guess drive it off of her.
Drive it off of her. I don't mean to laugh at that poor woman's death, but I mean just so awful.
Like one of the least ways that I would like to fucking go out.
To be squished.
Yeah, to be squished by heavy machinery.
If I was gonna be squished, I'd want it to be like really quick.
Have you ever seen the? It's like the old infomercial, like. It's like the old like safety commercial thing that they used to show to like the OSHA people when you first get hired.
Yeah, are you talking about?
He's standing in front of that thing and he gets impelled by the forklift. He's like, ah!
Those videos are so fucking stupid. I like the one where the guy they're sitting there like eating lunch or whatever, and the dude's like, run away, forklift, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the forklift like crashes into the wall, and the blades on the forklift punch through the wall, and they punch through that guy sitting on the other side of the wall.
Well, he's sitting there eating his fucking ham sandwich.
Yeah. It's like, have you ever seen, especially over in China, it happens a lot over there. You ever see those drop forges where they have those giant weights and they just release the weight and it falls down and it smashes into whatever piece of metal they're trying to work.
Oh, yeah.
And it's large pieces of metal that they're trying to work in.
Right.
So imagine like a blacksmith like hammering on something and then just scale that up by 10,000 or whatever. It's like, imagine being the guy that has to run up underneath that drop forge and like adjust some kind of shit and then get out. And that thing comes down and it shakes the earth when it hits. So if I was going to be squished by anything, it would be that. Because it didn't be just like a mosquito on your head. Just you just turn off. It's over in an instant. I don't want to be the person who's slowly squished to death and like feeling my skull burst out the sides. So fucking bad. Or like getting like wrapped up in a lathe.
Ooh.
Those are really bad.
Yeah.
Because that's so much torque and so much force. It's like you're not even there.
I watched.
You just get twirled up like a spaghetti noodle.
I was watching some video or something, like it was on Facebook, and it was like a guy that was creating something, and he put some, it looked stainless steel, he put it in a lathe, and he was like hand working it in the lathe. I was like, oh boy, you are playing with fucking fire.
Yeah. Because that thing grabs you.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done,
You're
dude.
donezo.
That is it.
Yep.
It's going to take everything. It's going to wrap you up in there.
Yep.
And like, I've seen videos.
It's going to turn you into fucking soup on him. That thing.
I've seen some pretty rough ones, man. I saw one where a dude had a real close call where he was turning a piece of steel in a lathe, and he was using the sleeve of his shirt to like polish it or whatever, wipe it down. And the chuck jaws on the lathe grabbed his shirt and just ripped it off of him. He was wearing like a long sleeve like flannel shirt like what I was wearing, and it just tore it off of him. And he was okay, but I mean that's not usually what happens. No. Luckily he was wearing like probably some really old threadbare shirt, and it just ripped it off of
him. Boy,
because if it would have got like his watch,
yeah, like mill mill work is fucking dangerous work.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially if you get complacent. Like if you've been doing it a long time and you get kind of lax on safety.
Yeah, you know, when you like bypass all the safeguards and
yeah. Yeah. We worked somewhere like that. Where you can just open the door and the machine's running. We had that one mill that the way that it changed tools, it had that huge hook that it would swing around and grab the tool and then swing back around and stick the tool like in the mill head.
And it'd go wham, wham, wham.
Yeah, like in a fraction of a second. And like if you happen to have your big dumb head over inside the mill while that thing was operating, it was just fucking tee off on your skull. It'll probably decapitate you.
Knock you out of there.
Some mill just milling around in you.
like a fucking cantaloupe. Oh God.
I at one point I was actually working at Simmons, and I was also working for another guy. I don't know if you ever met Randy. You remember me and Dad? We used to work. We did some side work for Randy.
Yeah.
Randy was a great dude. I really liked him, but he was in terrible health.
No.
He was like a type 100 diabetic, and he was pretty much blind. He was exactly blind.
Yeah.
And he drove to work.
Oh God.
On muscle memory alone. And one day, he's running his own shop by himself.
No.
So he's trying to get all these orders, and it's just him or whatever.
No.
And I was leaving one day, and I left his shop probably like around 10 o'clock. And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna stay behind and work on some of these parts." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, I felt bad leaving him there.
No.
And I came to work the next morning, or the next afternoon, because I'd worked like a second shift with him. And I went to his office, and he had his whole right hand in like a cast.
No.
I was like, "What happened to your hand?" He was like, "Man, I ran the center punch through my hand on the lathe."
Oh, no.
So to kind of explain what's going on is the lathe has these jaws that open and close, and that's where you stick the raw material in
and
there.
it holds it while you spin it.
And it holds it, and it spins it extremely fast. And then you have this other piece that'll come in from the other side on like a track, and it has like a point on it.
You could use like a bit or...
Yeah, the point on it is not really... It's not super sharp, but it's you know... I'm trying to think of how best to... It's like an eighth of an inch,
right? It's
in
almost
diameter.
Yeah, it's almost as if you have like a chisel tip.
Yeah, it's about that much. And so the thing what that does is it's called a center punch. So it centers up like the cylindrical piece of metal you're working in. Make sure it's not like spinning in some crazy thing. So Randy was standing there, and he was holding the piece of material in the chuck jaws. And he looks to the left at the control panel, and he can't fucking see it because he's blind. And he presses a button, and he thought he was pressing the button that closed the chuck jaws, but he pressed the button that ran the center punch. And so the center punch is starting to come towards his hand this whole time. He doesn't know that it's coming because he has no peripheral vision.
Yeah.
And it finally gets to a point where it just slowly crushes through his hand. So, poor Randy's standing there with his fucking hand and fucking like skewered into this machine. He had to press the button and back it off so he could get his hand free. I felt bad for him. There's some things you shouldn't do.
Right.
Like, work late hours in a machine shop by yourself when you're blind, when you're on the verge.
Yes. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's fucking dangerous work. I mean, even
you have to have a lot of respect for those machines.
Yes, even running like a deburr tool, like you had better be very aware when you take something out of a fucking mill or a lathe.
Yeah,
that you could cut the fuck out of yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With a piece of fucking whatever it is that you'll washer,
like a freshly milled piece of metal.
Right.
Those like nasty edges and splinters on it.
I guess for me, like, there was always something kind of therapeutic about taking the burrs off and like taking it over to like the deburr wheel.
Oh yeah,
and like
getting a nice polished edge
Yeah.
on something. Yeah. Speaking of cutting the fuck out of yourself,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a little bit of a story,
I do
don't
have
you?
a story about cutting the fuck out of yourself. So while you were in Italy,
Yeah. While I was jet setting.
yeah, while Gary was jet setting, I had gone to the grocery store to, of course, do our like weekly grocery run, and I had bought like all this like flank steak. It was like fajita type meat, right?
Yeah.
And so I had a marinade that I was gonna make for it, and I had just set out the meat. And I had just got started making the marinade, and I went to go get a big bag, like a big like freezer bag,
Yeah.
out of the pantry to stick the meat in. That way I could put the marinade inside of it. And so I grabbed the bag out of the pantry where it's at, and next to it there's a box of aluminum foil that's sitting there. And I hit it. I'm guessing I hit it like my arm or my elbow or something,
Yeah.
and it's kind of already on the edge there, and it falls. And I go to like grab it. I don't even know. I guess it fell, and I went to grab it. And when I went to go grab it, the part that you rip,
The serrated blade
the
that's attached to the box.
the saw part,
Yeah.
like when it fell, it caught me from top to bottom.
Oh, the whole way.
So it ring,
all 18 inches of that saw blade.
all the way down. And like immediately, I'm just gushing blood everywhere.
Oh, man.
And so immediately I go, fuck. It's just, I stick my finger right in my mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was my first thought. And so
It's got to go somewhere.
yeah. So I stick my finger in my mouth, and I go over to like the sink because I don't know what to do at this point. It's like, it's bad.
Yeah.
Like it immediately started bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it didn't, like most of the time, like I looked at it to see whether or not like it was waiting to bleed. You know, sometimes it'll be like, oh, that wasn't as, like it hurt,
Yeah.
but like it's not bleeding as bad as I thought. No,
Right.
it cut pretty much all the way down to like the bone. Like,
Oof.
so it cut me from, I'm going to show Gary, you won't be able to see, but if you lay your hand on its side, your middle finger from the top of that knuckle all the way down to about right there. So it just sliced that right open. Not really so much of a slice.
Sawed it open.
It sawed it open.
Well, you know, your fingers, your hands have a lot of like blood vessels in them, so they bleed a lot anyway.
Right.
But you like hit a vein or something.
I did. I hit a vein.
Oh.
So, and at that point, I just assumed like there's a lot of like blood vessels and everything there, and it's bleeding a lot. Like we took like 3 different tea bags and stuck it on there to try to get it to
Staunch
stop.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and after like an hour and a half and me like bleeding through everything,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's not stopping. Like
Yeah.
I have to go to the hospital now.
Yeah.
And so, and like of course Allison hears me in there. Like the thing hits the floor and it's really heavy. Like it's a full like 500-foot thing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Of full. So, and of course, like I'd take it out of my mouth and I spit like all this blood in the sink.
Were you kind of shocked at how much blood you spit out?
It was a lot. It was a lot. And so, and of course, Autumn's taking a nap, and Allison's like, well, do you want us to go with you? I was like, no, don't wake her up.
Yeah.
Like, you stay here with her. I'll go to the ER and get it taken care of. So I'll go up to the ER, and I go in, and I go back, and the doctor comes in there, and this is like after hours of waiting, right?
Yeah.
And so the doctor comes in, and he's like, you know, in there irrigating it. He's like got the water and he's spraying it off and everything. And he turns my finger over to look at it.
Yeah.
And when he does that, there's like a vein. Like I've sawed through this vein.
Yeah.
And it sprays all up onto his arm. Ooh. And the doctor goes, oh. Like, presses it back down. And
oh goodness.
Yeah. And
Heavens.
So,
your doctor's like, oh, blood. Oh.
and so, and yeah, Dad was up there too, because I texted Dad. I was, because he had texted me. He said, "You watching the Auburn game?" And I was like, "No,
Nope, that's not what I'm doing right now.
Not what I'm doing right now." So he was up there and he saw it happen. And then so the doctor gets ready. He's like, "Okay, well," he's like, "I'm gonna put some stitches in it." And he gets out the lidocaine
Yeah.
shot and everything. And he looked at me and said, "Now this is going to hurt."
Yeah.
So he gave me the shot, and oh my God.
Stick it right in that raw
He
meat.
stuck it right in that raw meat.
Yeah. That's what they did to me. Yeah, it sucks.
I just remember, like, I was like,
Yeah.
and so, but after that, like, it numbed up pretty quick, and I couldn't feel shit.
Lidocaine's for the real deal. Yeah. It's just
And
you got to
so-
get past that, sticking it in that fresh wound that
Right.
sucks so bad.
And so then he got it sewed up and everything, and got the stitches in there, and then, but right now, it's not too bad. I gotta have the stitches taken out, but I have severed a nerve in that finger.
Oh, really?
So like,
Is it kind of dead a little bit?
It's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't feel anything. Like I can feel pressure, but that's it.
Well, that's kind of how it was for me.
No.
Like when I exploded my thumb, it was that way for a long time. Like
Right.
it felt like, like I could tell that I was touching my thumb, but I
Right.
couldn't feel it. You know?
Right.
It was kind of like you said. It was kind of felt like just pressure. You couldn't really
Yeah.
kind of feel the more like detailed, the nuanced
Yeah.
feelings or whatever. But
Like
it's
I
fun.
can't tell if this is like rough or like anything. It's
Yeah.
just like I feel the pressure of me like touching something,
Yeah.
but that's it. But it's only like on the inside of the finger.
Yeah.
Like the outside of the finger is fine.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that I severed a nerve or something there.
Mm-hmm. It was going to take a minute for that to
Right.
come back because my thumb was that way for a long time, like
Yeah.
about a year or so before it finally came back together. Yeah, the lidocaine shot into the minced meat of your finger is not a fun thing to experience because
Yeah.
I remember.
He just looked at me. He's like, "This is gonna hurt."
Yeah, well, the doctor did when it happened to me. The doctor didn't even tell me that.
Yeah.
I like the doctor's over here working on my thumb,
Yeah.
and he's having to clean my thumb out because I was using a tool and the tool exploded, so there's a bunch of shit in my thumb,
Right.
and so he's having to get all that out,
Right.
and so I kind of thought he was still doing that, and Mary and Dad are in the room with me, and Dad was kind of standing there watching. And then Dad just looks at me and he gives me his hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, Dad's leaving," and he's shaking my hand goodbye. I was like, "That's kind of odd." So I reached up and I grabbed his hand, and then he squeezes my hand.
Yeah.
And
You're
I
like,
was like,
"Oh,
"Oh
no."
no!" And the doctor sticks that needle in my fucking finger, and it's just my brain was like, "Ah!" It's just like immediately, it just hurt like from all over all at once. It was like he stuck it right into my nervous system. It hurts so fucking
It
bad.
felt like somebody took like a hornet and like just stung me with it.
I feel like they were holding it. Just got you with it.
Because I remember the guy like went to go give me the shot. I was like, I can't look at him give me that shot
Yeah.
because it's gonna freak me out worse than what the pain's probably
Yeah.
gonna be. And I remember I like turned and looked at Dad, and Dad went. His eyes got real big. He told me he was like, "I'm not giving you my hand."
It's funny you're talking about watching the shot go in. So before we left, me and Mary both went and got COVID boosters.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we did because we ended up just catching a cold. But we went and got it at the same time, and I went first. And I didn't watch them do it,
Right.
but I felt them put it in. And you get a shot, it kind of stings a little bit at 1st and it's really not bad at all. But then I watched him do Mary's arm, and the fucking needle is like, I don't know, 6-7 inches long.
Yeah. You're like,
And he got all the way to the hilt with that thing in her arm. And I watched him do it. I was like, God damn. Like, it goes in that far. And he's
it's
just
like
so
we're
quick.
getting all the way down to the DNA.
Yeah, just right into the bone marrow with that thing. I just watched, like, he just, and it went in so, like, effortless,
Yeah,
too. It's like no effort
Yeah.
required. He just down and just plunged it into her arm and pulled it back out.
Yeah, I can't watch, which is really odd because I have all these tattoos, but like I can't watch a needle go in me.
Well, a tattoo needle happens, like, really, you can't even
Yeah,
see it.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's happening so fast, and it's not really going in that far.
Yeah.
It's really like surface level kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to watch like a long ass fucking needle just fucking glide right in there, I can't. Like I've seen people like they'll go to get their blood drawn. They just like look at the needle because those are big needles.
Yeah.
And they go in the vein.
Yeah. I've had my blood drawn a couple times, and I can't watch them stick it in there. But like, I don't even like seeing my, my blood come out of my body. That's supposed to be in me.
Yeah.
Did you played Dead Space 2, right?
Yeah.
You know the part at the end of that game, like towards the end. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, there's a part in that game towards the end where yeah, you have to crawl inside this machine and stick a needle in your own eye, like this like automated like thing. The character like lays in this machine and it holds his head in place. Ooh. And it like spreads his eyelids open. Ooh, and it's from the perspective of the needle, and you're bringing it down towards his eye.
Ooh. I can't.
I remember playing that game, and like
it's like, okay, enough of this.
Well, yeah, it's like, everything up to that point is like all this like horrific, like body horror and like all these awful things are happening. I'm like, none of that's really bothering me. And then when like I got to that part. And I crawled up into that machine and I saw that needle come down. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. I'm like, yep, this is where I draw the line.
Yeah. I'm like playing the game like this. Kind of like, Well, I guess before we run out of time, let's talk about our Super Cringe Thursday post.
Yeah, this one was a real doozy.
So part of me kind of feels that this one might be staged.
You think?
I think so.
I think she was pretty mad.
If it is staged, everyone did a great job.
Yes, they did a fantastic job.
So for those of you who didn't see it, our Super Cringe Thursday pick for this week was these young people who are sitting there playing Spin the Bottle. And for anybody who doesn't know, the game Spin the Bottle is you sit in a circle, one person grabs the bottle and they spin it, and whoever the bottle stops and points at, you kiss that person. It's like a thing that middle schoolers do. Yeah. The people who were playing this kind of seemed a little bit older, like maybe 10th, 11th grade.
Yeah.
Something like that. Well, it comes time for this one individual to spin the bottle, and he spins it, and it starts to slow down. Then he grabs it and points it towards the girl. Yeah. And then he just gives her this fucking cheesy Cheshire Cat grin. Yeah. And he was like, come on, please. Yeah. And she's just looking at him like, this can't be fucking real. This can't be happening. The thing that really ties it together is the fact that he's wearing a fedora.
Has a satchel.
Non-ironically.
Yeah.
And he's got like a Pokemon shirt on.
And he has a satchel.
Did he have a satchel?
He does have a satchel.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he has like a cross-body satchel.
Just a real fashionista.
Yeah. And of course, he's got on like long tube socks and some Vans and
just
some.
Not the look.
Yeah, like oh boy.
But
are you playing in a ska band after this?
you play the trombone in the ska band, or sack butt as it was called at one point. Yeah, so that one is just kind of that one is it's particularly effective in the cringe department because like we all remember being like that age where like I gotta kiss a girl before I go to college, and it's just like getting it positive attention from the opposite sex is such a big fucking part of your life. And to fail that in front of your peers is like the worst possible thing that can happen to you.
Yeah, that is cringe for him for that, right? So having had been a young man of that age at some point, like you need to be a little bit more self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe perhaps you need to kind of lower your standards some.
There's a lot to be said about lowering your standards.
Right.
Yes.
So when he pointed it at that girl and looked at her, number one, that's a really aggressive move.
Yeah.
To be
super aggressive.
To grab it while it's slowing down and whack.
Yeah. You're my victim.
So, and then for the girl, for her to like not really be like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And then as a young man, like you have to, at some point you got to be like, all right, guy down here,
Yeah.
like you got to shut the fuck up for a second because I have to do some critical thinking.
I got to think with the big head for a second. Send some of that blood back up here.
So when she's like not answering and won't look you in the eye.
Yeah.
I don't think that the correct response is to look at everybody and go, hose will be hose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's when he did that. And I was like, ah.
Was that after he said, come on, guys, make her kiss me?
Yep. Yeah, that was, oof, boy. Oof, oof.
Just fucking striking out, man.
Yeah, man.
Just
It's
doing everything wrong, saying everything wrong,
Right.
just everything wrong.
You know, and I hope maybe he learned a lesson that night that sometimes it is best to just take your L and keep it moving.
Oh yeah, we've mentioned that a couple times. I think that we've done a couple super cringe posts that have dealt with like courting and romance to some degree.
They're so bad.
And they're so bad.
They're the worst.
But yeah, sometimes you just got to say, well, I failed at that. I'll just move on to the next one.
Right.
There's no shame in it.
Right.
Because like I said, you can't get all the hoes, because if you could, there'd be none left for anybody else.
Right.
So he's just, not everybody's going to like you. A lot of women are going to think you're gross and weird and just, actually hate you a lot. And you're just going to have to deal with it.
Right. I mean, it sort of is what it is.
It just is what it is.
No. But at a young age, like, everything is so dependent upon your ability to be able to find a mate.
Yeah.
Like, that age.
You don't realize that that's what that is.
Right, exactly.
You just know
because not only is it that, but it's also, like, for a young man, that's sort of like a status symbol as well.
Yeah, like among your peers.
Your peers. Like, I'm a very attractive male. A lot of women like me.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big thing. Whereas, like, as you get older, like, you don't really fuck about that anymore.
It's like, am I able to eat today?
Right. The weight of life just kind of crushes you. And the bill companies really don't give a fuck how many ladies like you.
They don't care. Yeah, I can't tell Wells Fargo that.
They're like, oh, impressive.
Oh, really? 2 at one time. This month's invoice is on us. Casanova.
Yeah, and it's one of those, you got to learn it. The only way to learn it is to
fail.
To fail.
You got to just, Yep. Yeah, it's just got to happen to you.
And there is not a soul on earth that has a wiener between their legs that can look you in the eye and say, I have never failed.
Yeah.
Because guess what?
They have.
That's a lie.
Yep.
And they have.
Yeah. That thing can lead you to some very dark places.
Right.
Not always dark, warm ones.
I'm trying to think of, like, what's like the most embarrassing one I've had?
Like with a girl?
Yeah, just like getting turned down.
Getting turned down. I don't want to sit here and say that like I haven't had some of those, because I'm sure that I have. But all of my like relationships and stuff kind of happened very naturally.
Yeah.
Like I can't say that I ever really like put myself out there for a girl who, I wasn't 100% sure they were interested in me.
Right. See, I was very guarded about that I wasn't somebody that was going to go up and like be like, "Oh, I'm going to shoot my shot."
Yeah.
Like I really don't care.
I'm going to hate it.
Which there were some guys like that.
Yeah,
like,
and some people were able to pull that off.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. I was not one of them. Yeah. I had to be like certain.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to
I needed like a written contract.
Right.
Do you like me?
I am not going to get crushed in front of all these people. It is not going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm already dealing with enough self-confidence issues here. I don't need another one.
I already hate myself enough. I don't need to know that other people hate me too. Yeah, it's I was trying to think if I ever had anything like that. I don't think that I did. But another thing too is like I'm really bad. I'm really really bad at like getting hints and signals from girls.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot, and I could, I'd run out of fingers and toes if I counted them all. But there was a lot of times that I was told well after the fact, like, why did you never, make a move or like do what this, that, and the other when we were in school? And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You didn't like me. They're like, yes, I did.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I didn't know. You
What?
didn't.
You looked at me.
You didn't explicitly tell me, which is what I need.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, there was probably several instances where I thought somebody was just my friend.
Right.
And I didn't know that they actually liked me. I like you, you know, that kind of thing. Any girl that I was, ever had a relationship with, it was like they had to be like, hey, I want you to be my boyfriend. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, right. Like, okay,
a girl likes me.
I'll go along with that. Yeah. I mean, God, me and Allison started dating senior high school. So, I mean, we've been together for 15 years.
Yeah.
So almost half of my life.
Yeah, you've been with her.
Yeah. So I don't really, I guess it would probably be.
It's like that part of my life is really far away.
Right.
Really, really, really far away.
Right. Like I have all these other things that I've done.
Yeah. And other things that I'm like concerned with.
Right.
It's like I had told Mary before, I was like, if anything ever happened like between you and I and we weren't together anymore, I was like, I really honestly don't know if I would try to get into like the dating scene.
No.
I was like, and not so much because it's an actual cesspit hellhole right now with like online dating and all that.
Ugh.
And like seeing some of the horror stories that have come from that. It's just like, I don't want to be like, hey, pick me, look at me. How am I? I don't want to put in the effort to do that. Like I'm more concerned with.
I don't have the time.
Yeah, I'm an adult. Like I got things I got to take care of.
Nor do I really care enough at this point.
Yeah. But like I'm really glad that I met Mary when I did, and our relationship happened the way that it happened, because I would not want to be trying to find love in this
in your early 30s.
In my early 30s, yeah. I mean, no.
That sounds fucking horrific.
That sounds terrible. That's like I would be looking at that and just be like, I want no part of it.
Right. Well, I mean, it comes down to like, I would imagine that men that are in their early 30s that are in the dating scene, you probably have like a couple of choices. Mm-hmm. You can either date down to somebody that's like in their mid-20s, that's like 8 years younger than you.
And think about trying to have a conversation with that person.
You have nothing in common.
Nothing in common.
You have nothing in common. Because like most of the...
all the way down to like your opinion on things.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And they're probably like still into like the club scene.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck that. Oh my God.
All like the nightlife and all that shit.
Yeah. Like I'll drop you off and pick you up, but I'm not going.
It's like you've either got that or you've got like the woman that's probably a divorcee, and then you
very bitter.
Yeah. Right. You go to deal with that, and she's probably got a couple kids. Yeah. Right. And it's like, and I love my child.
Yeah.
But
because it's your child.
Because it's my kid.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to raise somebody else's kid.
Yeah.
It's like, and then not only that, it's like, but the ones that have never been married and are not younger than you. Well, now we got to figure out what's going on. Why? Yeah. Why in the world?
Yeah, that something's up here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what's hiding behind the weeds there? It's like it's not adding up. It's not welding together. Okay, you're pretty, and I like you. And if I like you, probably means there are a lot of people that like you. Why aren't you with someone?
Well, that too, and like at that point, like in your early 30s, I'm assuming like. It's like you're probably trying to speed the process up. It's
hey, like I ran out of time here. We got we
gotta get going. So you're going to be more apt to make a snap decision
and a poor choice.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Especially too, like think about the time you got to dedicate to that, right? So when you're in high school, when you're around that age, and you're trying to,
you don't have a whole lot going on.
You don't have very much going on.
Right.
Like your life, pretty much your social life is your whole life, and that's probably why so much of that seems so important.
Right.
Because that's all it is at that point. And when you become an adult and you have a career, your career is
right.
The majority of what your life is. So, I mean, by the time you get home from work, do you really want to have to, like, put on going out clothes and,
Right.
you know, go to the bar and, like, have to just fucking night after night and rejection after rejection? Yeah. It's like, no wonder people fucking snap. No wonder there's somebody out there making sex robots.
I mean, I guess it could be worse. I mean, it could be that, especially for guys and gals that are in their early 30s. I mean, if there wasn't online dating, then you would have to go to a bar to find somebody. Yeah. I mean, not have to. I mean, I would assume that you're making very poor choices if that's where you go to try to find love. Yeah. I would assume like you would want to go somewhere that maybe somebody would share a common interest. I think
the online dating probably kind of lends itself to, you know, the former of those two things. Right. Because, you know, especially when you consider like the way Tinder works. So, like, you know, Mary and I were already together before Tinder came out, and we never used Tinder or anything like that. But we had a mutual friend of ours who did use Tinder, and we were looking at his phone, and we were like, kind of show us how this works. And it's literally it's just faces. It's just like, don't like, ugly fuck, and it's just like, it's the most carnal. Like, you might as well just have your wiener down there making all the decisions. And, like, I've seen people in public on Tinder, you know, just swiping. They're not reading your little, you know, blurb your bio, down there, what that is. They're looking at your face and deciding if they want to fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah,
it's like sex on demand. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't have to deal with any of that. Like, that wasn't something that... And it seems to me too. It's like a lot of the kids. That's sort of how they're ending up in relationships, is off these.
Well, that's what they're going to think that dating is, right? Because I mean, that's what it is. Right. It is that now. That's what dating is now. Right. I mean, so when we were growing up, you know, and you're seeing movie and TVs and stuff, and when people on those shows and things went to meet people, what do? They went to the bar. They went to they went to where the people were. Right. Now the people are in your pocket on your phone. Mm-hmm. Imagine like you went to a bar and you just walked up to a woman and you said, I'd fuck you, you're fat, I'd fuck you. It's like they're all lined up against a wall. He's just like, no, yes, no.
like a police lineup.
Yeah. Turn to the side.
Yeah, I mean the whole prospect.
Next, ladies, we're gonna do the sniff test.
The whole prospect of just being like, that's how you decide, like, this is the person I would like to try to form a relationship with. Yeah. It's like, it just seems so fucking
kind of soulless.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
to be fair, your first choice. The first thing you always base your attraction off of is whether or not you are physically attracted to that person.
Physically attracted to this person?
Yeah, that has to happen numero uno.
Immediately.
Yeah. Now, so everything else comes second. So the first, thing that ever happens when you meet a person is you see them with your eyeballs.
Yeah. Are they symmetrical?
Are they kind of lumpy? Are they kind of... do you look like the shape that I like? It's just fucking monkey brain.
Exactly.
And then you get to know them and everything. You're not supposed to act off that immediately, like a monkey. Right. You're supposed to, get to know a person. Yeah. So I guess Tinder is, it's the exact same thing, right? Right. You're making that first choice. Do I like the way that you look? So, I mean, I guess it really isn't all that different than... going to a bar and seeing somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I like I said, I met my wife in high school, so yeah, we had a class together. That's how I met my wife.
Yeah. I earlier when you said you were trying to think about like your worst like failure with a woman, or like your cringiest thing or whatever. What it kind of got me thinking, because I had a thing pop in my head. What is the cringiest thing you've ever seen somebody do in a social setting? Because I do have one. Like, I've done cringy things in social settings and like said like something that kind of landed flat. Everybody's done that. Yeah. But when you see someone else do it, it's almost worse because it's kind of like that secondhand embarrassment.
Right.
You know, and I hate to say this, but because I lived in two different worlds in high school.
Yeah.
Like, I lived over here, like, in the sports jock world, but then I also enjoyed doing, like, choir and stuff.
Yeah.
And for some fucking reason, I don't know why it is, but people that do, like, choir and band, for the most part, most of them are pretty fucking normal.
I don't know about most,
But
I was pretty deeply into that side of things, and I don't know if most is the word I'd use.
However, for the most part, the fucking weirdos don't play sports. I don't know what it is. They like to sing and play instruments.
Yeah. Very left-brained people.
And, like, I loved both of them very much. Like, my two different friend groups, like, I was like, I love you and I love you, but I can't mix you two together because, like, but neither one of you have anything in common.
Yeah. It's like, I like ice cream and I like orange juice.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it at the same time.
But I don't like them together. I think the time that the person that we both know was playing the piano at the what was it, the talent show, and said, "Please clap."
Oh, no. I know what you're talking about. That's not what happened, though.
Oh, is that no?
No.
I must not remember it correctly.
He that's the gist of what happened.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't playing the piano. He was playing a guitar.
Yeah.
And there was another person there with him, drumming with him.
Yeah.
And they played, and just on the off chance that this person hears it, I'm not even really going to give a whole lot of information away. But after the song, he said, "How about a round of applause for me?" This is at the talent show. The whole school is there. And what happened after he said, "How about a round of applause for me?" Dead fucking silence.
Like, this dude's fucking comedic gold. Like, your timing is impeccable.
Holy shit. I could taste the secondhand embarrassment. It landed on my tongue.
Yeah, like,
Ugh, yikes. Wowee. Yeah, so I witnessed that, so that probably would be my number one as well. That was particularly bad. I'm surprised that didn't come to mind. Wow.
There's always that. There's that, and like anytime somebody threw up, like that's pretty like secondhand embarrassment. Yeah, because everybody, the girls all scream and it smells bad.
Yeah, throwing up never happens at like an opportune time.
No, it's always like somebody is like sits up straight in class and just like pukes into the floor.
Yeah. In middle school, I remember this very, very clearly. There was a kid who sat at our table, and the middle school we went to had a salad bar.
Yes,
and a pretty decent salad bar.
This was a good one.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And he came and sat down at the table, and all he had was like this fucking mountain of broccoli with like nothing to dip it in.
Yeah.
Which broccoli is good if you got something with it.
And immediately everybody is sort of like, what's about to happen
up
here?
Yeah. And he had like 4 or 5 chocolate milks. So he ate all of it and drank all of it.
Ugh.
And about 20 minutes later, he throws up onto the table.
Oh my God.
And it's just chocolate milk with little green beads in it. And we're watching it spread across the table like some kind of fucking alien life form.
It's funny if he'd sat down and be like, "I'm going home today."
Yeah. Watch this. When I was in I think it was 9th grade. We were it was in literature class, and at this point in the class we were reading the Odyssey, I think it was.
No.
And We were having like silent reading time. So I was sitting in my chair and I was leaned back in my chair, like with the back of the chair on the wall, so only the back legs of the chair were on the ground. So it was kind of reclining in that way. And I was reading the book. And so like the front edge of the chair was like about mid-thigh, so it was pressing into my thighs a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden, I catch like the craziest thigh cramp. And so it's dead quiet in the room.
Yeah.
And I go, whoa, like that. And I stand up real quick. And of course, everybody like looks at me.
Looks right at you.
And I hobble out of the classroom. And Chris Camp was in there. And after I freaked out and hobbled out of the room without saying to anybody, Chris goes, he shit his pants. And I didn't. I just walked outside and waited for the cramp to subside, and I came back in. So I was like, sorry, I caught a cramp. Yeah. But had I like not come back into the classroom, everyone would have thought I just shit my
pants. How's it going, shitty
pants? So thanks for that, Chris.
You know, and I think too, that as you get up to like a senior, like towards like 18, you're not doing like as many cringy things. For some reason, most of the cringy stuff that you do kind of resides like in like the 7th grade to like 10th grade.
It's like when you're transitioning out of being a kid into being a teenager.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like 6th grade, you're still a kid. Like you don't.
You're a fucking kid.
You're a fucking kid.
Yeah.
Like, but 7th grade is when things start to kind of turn.
Yeah. Like biologically.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So about the time you hit 13, right? And then like up until the time like. Especially 9th grade. 9th grade's fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like you can't drive. Mm-hmm. Like you're some dingbat riding the bus.
Yeah.
It's like and then you're trying to make a move on like the girls that are like in your age bracket.
Yeah.
It's like, and they're getting picked off by the fucking seniors. It's like, I have nothing to offer.
Yeah, anyone. I'm just a fucking vacuum.
Yeah, I'm of zero value to anybody in this current situation.
Yeah.
And then, like, once you turn 16, like, you are able to drive yourself places.
Yeah, you become independent a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it changes a little bit, right?
Yeah. It's always weird in retrospect, too, because, like, I can remember being in 9th grade and seeing the seniors and thinking that they were, like, grown adults.
Right.
Like, so, like, our mom was a teacher, and, you know, after school... When our school let out, we had to go up there to the high school,
right? Yeah.
And hang out in her classroom for a little bit. So, you know, even then, like, you know, as a 3rd grader seeing seniors, I'm like, oh, these are like grown adults. Like, this is basically just my mom. You know, everybody's they're all the same. And then now, as a 30-year-old,
you're like, these are children.
I see seniors in high school now. I'm like, these are fucking little kids.
Right.
They're just little children.
Right.
And so it's always weird thinking back in retrospect.
Like, I even see 21-year-olds. I'm like, you are a child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so insane to, especially when you think back on when you see that and you know it appears that way to you now, and then you think back on like how you felt about things back then.
Right.
You're like, I had no fucking idea how little any of that fucking mattered.
Right. Had no bearing on my life whatsoever.
Yeah. None of it fucking mattered. You know, we said before you, though, some of it does matter, like you don't want to be boner kid.
Right.
Or Mr. Shit Pants.
Boner kid.
Yeah. You don't want to, like, puke on the cheerleader.
Yeah, right.
You know, some things will follow you forever.
Yeah. Don't think you can do anything.
Yeah. So the cringiest thing I've ever witnessed someone do was... It was when I first went to college, and they're kind of, you know, showing us around the campus and everything. Yeah. So it was like I guess you'd call it like an introductory day.
Yeah.
So you are being led around by like some seniors in college or whatever, and they're showing you like, here's where the building where you do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're trying to kind of make it fun. It's like I remember like our group was being led around by like these 2 girls who were you know just trying to keep everybody's spirits up and you know make a fun day out of it or whatever, because we're all just kind of lugging around like, oh, it's fucking college.
Yeah.
There was this one guy who was with our group, and he you know it's important to bring up his physical appearance because it kind of gives you an idea about like what this guy was. So he was kind of short, and he was wearing the Three Wolves Howling at a Moon shirt.
Oh no!
So that's pretty much
that's already tells you kind of what you need to know.
Yeah, that kind of gives you what you need to know. And we got to this point where we went out into what they call Love Valley at West Georgia, and they started playing some music over the PA speakers over the whole school, and they're like, "Oh, this is the time of day where we all sing and dance," and obviously it's a joke or whatever,
right?
And she was like, "And you're supposed to tell us, what you think college will be like or whatever." Oh. And so they're kind of like, "What do you think college would be?" And the whole time I'm like, "Please don't pick me out," whatever. And that guy standing right next to me.
You're just like looking off into the distance.
Yeah, I'm like trying not to make eye contact. That guy's standing next to me, and they point at him and they're like, "What do you think?" And he goes, "I thought we were here to get a higher education." And he kind of like was trying to poo-poo on the thing, but he like made this like big shit-eating grin, like everybody was gonna laugh at what he said.
Oh, okay, so he's one of those guys.
Yeah. And it was quiet.
Yeah.
And I heard this one girl go, "Whoa." And it was like, oh man, that's the worst. When a girl is like, and he's standing next to me, I'm like, I don't know that guy.
It's like he would have been better off being like, "Look, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but please don't ask me that question."
He was trying to like shit down on everybody's like good time or whatever,
right?
And he just made himself like a huge ass.
Yeah. It's been such a long time ago. I remember when I did orientation at Auburn. It was like a whole day and a half, 2 days. Might have been a day and a half. I remember like we stayed in the dorms, and then like they like walked us around campus because the campus is fucking massive. It's even bigger now. And then like they walked us down like Tumor's Corner and all that shit. And like they were like they tried very hard to be like, this is a fun experience. You're going to enjoy your time here and everything. And then, the worst part about it was we already had some kids that had come in and it was neat to like get to know people like, oh, like somebody be like, I'm staying at the apartment complex over here. And be like, oh, I'm staying at the apartment complex next to you. Yeah. And so to kind of get to know like who some of your neighbors are going to be and everything. Right, yeah. And then of course like you had, and since this was a larger university, you had some Daddy's Money's people that were up there, right? Like some of these like fraternity guys.
Alum.
Yeah.
Or legacy.
Right. And this was like at the time, I specifically remember this. Like everybody like wore like the Oakleys, but they had the strap that went around. Yeah. They had the strap that went around and they wore visors. Mm. That was a look. Mm-hmm. And they wore visors and they wore like short shorts, like
they call them chubs,
like khakis, and like a polo, and like some,
tucked into the shorts,
and then like some fucking Sperry's, like that like was
little brown loafers.
That like if you saw somebody wearing that, like that was a look, right? And so like that was sort of like the uniform of the day, if you will, for that section of the student population. And so there was one guy that obviously did not fit in with like this other group of people that he continually tried to hang out with. Like he was always like on the outskirts of the group, right? He was
like trying to weasel his way in.
Right. And so like the whole time, like I'm doing like my own thing. Like, I'll walk over here and like go see what's going on over here. Yeah. And I keep seeing this group, right? Yeah. And so, like, I'm actively trying to find, like, other people that might be in the athletics department, like, where I'm going to be. Yeah. And so, but it's kind of hard to meet them as you're walking around. Mm-hmm. So, and every time I go by, and this is a heavier set individual that is wearing the same deal, but it's not fitting him as well, all right? So, and he's, like, walking around, and they're, like, fucking making fun of this dude.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah,
like have some self-respect.
Do you really want to even be a part of it?
Right. Yeah. It's like you want no part of this.
Yeah.
It's like I think like I'm seeing this person. I'm like,
it's like you think that's what you want.
Yeah, you think that's what you want.
Yeah.
It's like, but you're going to be the dude they're going to stick a fucking diaper on.
Yeah.
And they're going to parade him around.
Yeah. You're going to be the
outside.
ask me about my wiener guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's who you're getting ready to be.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's who you want to be?
Yeah.
Like, you would be better off going and living in the fucking dorms and finding a group of friends.
Yeah. It's like, plus you're like a dude.
Yeah.
We make friends super easy.
Right.
Like, it's very...
Find somebody with common interests.
Yeah.
Like,
You could just share a space with somebody and you just kind of become friends with them just out of being in the same vicinity.
exactly. It's not hard. It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
It's like, so you are needlessly putting yourself in this situation with a group of people that don't want you there.
Yeah. College is really where it all culminates.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
On a social level.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, whatever you've learned up till this point is what you have. You're not going to learn anything new.
Nope.
It's just like you've got the tools. Now you got to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe mine got a little bit skewed just because I was a college athlete. So I didn't really spend a whole lot of my time with other students that were not also college athletes.
Yeah. So you're kind of around a lot of like-minded people.
Right,
anyway.
around a lot of like-minded people.
Yeah.
So that, I think maybe my college experience the first time around was a bit different than maybe, say, like an average college student, where you have to like go find like-minded people. Where I'm assuming a lot of the friends that you make are probably people that are going through that are in the same department. They're going to be graduating the same like degree or something like that, or maybe you like find somebody that is part of like a club or something that you're in.
I remember one of my good friends that I made in college was John. We called him John College.
Little John College.
It was kind of funny because when I talked about him to people, my friend John that I made in college, and we were like, "Oh, John College," and then, like everybody just started calling him John College. We had a music history class together.
No.
And they started playing that Bingo Bango Bongo song by the Andrews Sisters. And I kind of perked up a little bit, and he did too. He's sitting next to me. We had never said a word to each other. And we just kind of looked at each other and we were like, Fallout 3?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, dude, Fallout 3. And then we were like fast friends after that.
Right. It doesn't take much.
That's all it takes. Yeah.
Right. Something that me and you can actively talk about.
Yeah. The majority of my college experience was spent not at college because I just fucking wouldn't go to class. But there was one day where I went into I think it was called the TLC or something like that, technology learning something or whatever. That's where they had all the computer science classes. But there was a couple of vendors in there as well, and one of them in particular sold this really good roast beef sandwich.
Yeah.
And everybody loved that thing. So this building that was for like science was constantly flooded with people trying to buy this roast beef sandwich. And they were constantly out of them or whatever. And one day I was standing outside the doors and I was smoking cigarettes at the time. So I was standing there smoking with one of my friends. And this guy came out. He had the sandwich and he fucking fell on his face.
Oh, no.
And the sandwich just went in every direction. Like, all the ingredients completely separated from one another.
No.
Like, the condiments went this way, the cheese went that way. And it happened in front of everybody. Everybody saw it happen. And he just stands up and he goes, I can't fucking take it anymore! It's like right then, like...
He was probably having a shitty day. He was probably having a real shitty day. He probably got back a test. It was like an F. He like failed the fuck out of that
like
test.
He studied really hard for. Like his mom yelled at him that morning. You're a disappointment, Chuck. And he's like, I just need a win. Yeah. I just need this roast beef sandwich. I never saw that guy on campus again. I mean, you know, I don't know if I would have recognized him if I did, but like, wherever you are now, roast beef guy, if you're listening to this, I feel for you, man.
I hope you're okay.
As hard as that was for you to endure, it was hard for me to witness. Yeah. It was like, oh, that's the next shooter.
Oh. Yeah, college is a fucking experience.
Yeah. And it's different for everyone.
Right.
No one is having the same.
No.
Nobody's having the same time there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to so many different fucking colleges.
You went to what? You went to West Georgia and KSU?
I went to Auburn, and then
you tried to go to West Georgia.
Yeah, then I went to KSU, and then I guess you'd say dropped out. I was on academic probation.
Did you do like I did? I did the Irish goodbye. I just stopped going.
That's what I did. So when my GPA was like a 1.0, my first semester of my sophomore year, and then they were like, "Oh, you need like to take all these classes."
Yeah.
And I just didn't do it.
It's not happening.
I just took 4 classes I knew I'd get good grades in.
Right.
And they're like, "You didn't take any of the classes we told you had to take."
You're like, well, I didn't want to.
Yeah. And they're like, "Now you're going to have to take them during the summer semester." And I was like, "Well, I don't have any money to do that, so I don't."
Bye.
Yeah. And so they're like, "And we're not going to up your scholarship." And they're like, "So you need to go think about what it is like you need to do and then let us know." And I just never talked to them again.
Yeah. Like, you'll figure it out when you never see me again.
And then I remember I started working, and then of course I started going through all the different fucking jobs and everything. Started working at the fucking warehouse, and left the warehouse and started working at the fucking 6 Feet Under in Atlanta.
Yeah, and you worked at Simmons.
And then I worked at Simmons at the same time, so I was working those 2 jobs. And then I remember being like, "Oh, I'll just go to West Georgia. That's what I'll do." And so I took my application up there, and I might have already told this story or whatever. And I remember there was like, I don't know how it is now, but there's no fucking parking up there.
They built a parking garage since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where I went to the admissions office, there was like 3 fucking parking spots, and they were all taken by people that worked in the fucking admissions office.
Yeah.
And so I like drove around like 5 fucking times. I like, fuck this. And I was so mad that I took my admission letter and threw it out of the fucking car and just drove off. And then like a month and a half later, I get a call and I answer it and I'm like, "Hello, who is this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, this is the West Georgia admissions office." They're like, "You need to sign up for your classes." I was like, "No."
What are you talking about?
Like, I'm not doing that.
Like, we got your application.
Yeah.
The barrier for entry is you just drive by and you throw your application out the window and you get accepted.
And so,
oh man,
yeah, they were like, and I remember they told me, they were like, "Oh, well, you need to sign up for your classes." Like, well, I'm not interested in going. I was like, I've decided that's not what I'm doing. And they're like, "Well, you need to submit like a so-and-so." I was like, "No,
I'm not fucking doing that.
I'm not doing that either." I'm like, "No."
I don't need to nothing.
Yeah. It's like, I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
And so then I went in the military, and then I ended up taking a couple of classes through like Central Texas or something.
Yeah.
And then got my associates through Florida State College, Jacksonville, and then got my bachelor's degree through Liberty.
I have no idea how I ended up where I am. I kind of just fell through cracks.
Yeah, just winged it.
My entire life. I don't know like what. So like, yeah. So I dropped out of college, and then I started working at a Mexican restaurant, and I moved out of the house, and working at the Mexican restaurant, I met someone who owned a golf cart shop. And started working for them, where I built customized golf carts, which was the coolest job I've ever had. Yeah. And if I ever won the lottery or anything, I didn't have to worry about money, I'd be back there in a heartbeat. Yeah. Just because it was so fun and awesome. And then somebody that we know was starting up an office for a natural gas contractor. And knew that I was quote unquote good at computers.
Good at computers.
Which I honestly, I'm not like a computer whiz or anything.
Right.
I just know how to Google shit. And so the rumor of me being good at computers got me that job. And then that office ended up laying us all off, but they found jobs for us.
Right.
So I started working for a different natural gas contractor. And so I gained CAD experience through doing those jobs that just kind of landed in my lap. And through gaining CAD experience, I now have the job where I'm at now, where I work for an engineering firm.
Hey.
I just fucking landed. It's just like...
My last interview, like the last like interviews that I went on for the company that I work for now, like I work with like it's like a quality management system. Like I do the configuration of the system.
Yeah.
And it's like based on a platform. And then like I also like I'm a consultant for like all these different companies and everything. And so like when they talk to me, like I had no experience in the industry that they work in.
Yeah.
And so they were like, tell us about a time that you were unsure of like how to do something and then you persevered. And I was like, before I started my degree in computer science, I was like, I was terrified of computers. I was like, I hardly knew how to work one.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I graduated top of my class.
Yeah.
I was like, I can Google really well.
Yeah.
I got really comfortable at using Google and YouTube to figure out how to do stuff.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not being afraid to ask a question is a huge skill.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I specifically remember when I started that program, I was like, this is going to be really hard because I am terrified of computers. I hardly know how to work Outlook.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like computers, like the computers that we grew up with, were like these very...
You could break them.
Yeah, real easy. You go to the wrong website and it's fucking game over. It's a lot different than what they are now.
Yeah, I just remember like the computer room, like being like terrified of the computer.
Like you felt you just like walk in there like, oh, got a virus.
Yep. Well, I think at the time, there was there's like LimeWire.
Yeah.
And what was the one that we used to use? BearShare.
I used
There was like LimeWire, like FrostWire.
Yeah, there was Azul.
Mm.
There's of course Pirate Bay was a big one.
That's a little bit later though. That's when people started torrenting stuff, right?
On,
Which
LimeWire was just file sharing.
Right, just file sharing.
Yeah, which was it's super illegal.
Right.
You can't just take copyrighted stuff and just give it away.
You see like a LinkinPark.exe, you're like, ooh.
I wonder what this executable file will do.
This must be the MP3 file I'm looking for.
Yeah, it was really interesting too. Well, one thing I want to mention right before we get out of here is, do you remember cheat codes in video games?
Yes.
That's not a thing anymore.
No.
Nowadays you have mods.
Right.
Which is, I mean, as cool as some mods are, there's just something to be said about a programmer taking the time to work in this, like, secret code you can type in and, give your character a giant head or infinite ammo.
Everything now is just kind of soulless.
Yeah. I remember I was kind of just browsing the internet one day and I asked Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves, oh Lord.
Video game cheat codes.
No.
Like, is there like a comprehensive list of these things? I'd be curious. And the first link that came up was for a website called cheathaven.com. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I clicked on it, and it was a cheat code website. Yeah. And I just remember, everybody's web page back then was very gaudy.
Oh, yeah. Everything was like HTML and CSS.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was very old school.
Yeah, like bubble letters and it was just every homepage you landed on had to have some kind of MIDI music file that played. Oh. Nobody really knew what the fuck they were doing back then. Even corporate websites were like that.
Yeah.
Before everything kind of looks the same now.
Right. Before they started using JavaScript for like executables on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember, I went to the website, and it played, this angelic, fanfare.
Yeah.
And, from the bottom of the screen, Cheat Haven just, floated up to the top of the screen with, angel wings and stuff like that. And I'm, a little fat kid who loves video games. I'm like, this is what I wanted my whole life.
Well, video games back then were a lot harder than they are now. Like, it required a lot of skill. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I remember Mom bought a fucking book for us so that we could finish Ocarina.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not handholdy like it is now.
No.
And of course, we didn't really have like, you couldn't just pull out your phone, how do I beat such and such? Oh, here's the first result. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. It was like you had to like put a lot of time and effort into this shit. And it was kind of, because a lot of that was like fresh off like the heels of like arcade cabinets.
Right.
And that stuff was hard because they wanted you to keep feeding quarters into this thing. So that's kind of how
they're using the same.
It was the same design concepts
Right.
for going into like the shit that's in your house.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of those like N64 games, like I specifically remember there was it like Quest 64 or something like that? Oh my God.
You're just given no information.
Yeah.
The game just starts and you're like,
hey, yo.
Here you go, figure it out, have fun. Oh, by the way, you won't know if the game sucks until about 5 hours from now.
Right.
Because you're thinking like, is the game bad or am I bad? Like, who's at fault here?
Yeah, and looking back on that, like, especially with that being like the first, like, I guess like 3D console, where a lot of like the textures would pop in and out.
Yeah.
Like I remember like Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
Like that one was real bad about textures popping in and out. Because like as you were like flying or like it was one speed you flew, and then you kind of controlled X and Y axis.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't move forward and back.
Right.
Yeah,
that game in particular is like one of my most fondest memories of like games back then, just because everything back then was so you had to really stand out.
Oh yeah.
Like what's your gimmick? Like, oh, we're animals in space and flying planes around and shooting lasers, and like you're like a 10-year-old kid. You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sign me up.
And that the thing I remember about that too was that, especially with Star Fox 64, was that when it would show you like, oh, you're moving on to the next planet.
Yeah.
It's like, but you could have went this way.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, how do I do
Yeah.
that?
And you're like, how do I do that? And it's like, oh yeah, that little alleyway you missed. It's like you got to go that way.
It came by for like a second,
like a
and
split
like you didn't
second.
even see it.
Right.
There's a whole other ending if you go that way.
Right.
There's a lot of, they managed to work a lot of replay value into
there was a lot of charm in those games.
Yeah. They put a lot of replay value into a game whose file size was probably like 200 megabits or something.
Well, I mean, think about like all of the different, think about like Mario 64. Like the replay value on Mario 64.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
that's like a 25-hour long game. That's a
it's long
game.
It's fucking really long.
It's arduous.
Yes. And like, cause you had to collect all the fucking stars.
Yeah.
And like, and it wasn't like you didn't like go into like one little area and like get them all in one go. Like you had to keep going back to get all of them.
Yeah.
And then like, God forbid, like you were like a couple stars short. You're like, oh, I gotta go back.
I gotta go figure out which one I missed.
And it's like, and you gotta go back to like level 2.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, the level that I just said fuck it and went through it.
Yeah, I beat that game for the first time when I was like 19.
Oh, really?
Because I like went and bought a Nintendo 64 and that game, and I was like, now that I'm older, I should have no problem with this. That's not true. That sucked just as bad.
Yeah. I mean, all those, especially all those old games. Like I remember playing like Sonic 2.
Oh yeah.
For the first time, like being like 18 when like on the, it wasn't the GameCube, it might have been the Wii when like they bought like Sega.
Yeah.
And you could go buy the games.
They had like those emulators built into the Wii.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember playing that and I was like, oh, it's just as fucking hard now.
Yeah. It was always difficult.
Yeah, it was always hard.
The thing that sucked so much about those games was like they didn't have like save states back then.
No.
You couldn't save your progress.
No.
And like those games were quite long. And it was like you were meant to sit down and beat it in one session.
Right.
And if you died too many times, you go all the way back to the fucking beginning.
I specifically remember, like, as a very small child, like, I remember getting to the area where you would fight Robotnik.
Yeah.
Like, getting to the area where Metal Sonic is in Sonic 2. And I specifically remember Mom saying, pause the game. I need you to come in here and help me. And I paused it, and my little kid brain fucking malfunctioned. And it was like the first time I'd ever gotten that far.
Yeah.
And instead of turning the TV off,
oh no,
I turned the console off.
Oh, you're like 8 hours in at this point.
I was like, ah!
What was it all for?
Like all that time wasted.
All those years wasted. Well, I think that's about all we got time for today, everybody. Hopefully, I can get this edited and uploaded so that we have our normal Tuesday release. So, I hope that you enjoyed. It's nice to be back. Nice to be recording episodes again. Sorry again that we missed 2 weeks. I know that y'all missed us. So we'll try and keep a steady schedule of episodes coming. There will be 1 week in December that we missed because I'll be gone. I'll be up in Minnesota. But other than that, we should be pretty clear for a while. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything you would like to share with the podcast, make sure to reach out to us on our Facebook page, or you can email us at thickboypodcast@gmail.com. If we said anything wrong or anything that offended you, make sure you let us know, and we'll read it out at the end of the podcast, a new segment called I'm Sorry.
Yep.
We also have some stickers left over. Again, so if you want any stickers, just let us know. We can get those to you. And I think that's all I got. Do you have anything you want to close with?
No, I don't really have anything that I want to say. I know that we had a user submission for Super Cringe Thursday.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
I just haven't had time to take a look at it yet.
I saw it. That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough.
So to this person, I think we need to have a talk about whether or not it's like since I know who this person is.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how we want to move forward with user submissions.
Yeah, and everybody listening's like, "Ooh, this is juicy."
Yeah. Well, and I got to watch it myself, so I haven't had time to watch it yet. Yeah. So I'll make time to do that, and then we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, because it's easy to poo-poo on people we'll never have to meet in real life.
Right. Exactly. Right. And I'll probably never have to meet this other person either. But the person that the post is about.
Yeah.
So.
It is good cringe, though. It's tasty.
So I do appreciate that the person that sent us that also thought the same thing that we thought.
Yeah, on the same way. We're on the same wavelength here. Yeah. So that being said, if you guys have anything you'd like us to,
I'm down for user.
I'm totally down for user submissions.
Absolutely.
So
if you come across anything cringy,
send it our way.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
And I guess we'll decide on whether or not we're going to shout out who sends us that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to be like liable.
Yeah,
for defamation.
And if we do start doing that kind of stuff, if something gets sent to us by somebody and it's from somebody that you know, we probably need to go ahead and say this. Do not go to this person's page
and say, "Hey, look what I did."
Yeah, do not bother these people
that
are in these videos. Yeah. That's probably something we have to say. So
just to cover our own asses.
We don't have a legal department here, but I'm taking I'm taking a guess.
It's just us.
Because chances are, if we had a legal department, like you can't,
they'd be like,
you can't do that.
All right, everybody. Well, that's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.